Aloha, this is Samana. This is my podcast 34 episode. This is entitled Moving from Fear to Trust. I did a meetup on this at my house. I do a meetup once a month called Be a Relationship Architect if you're in South Austin. Our next one is March 9th, and we are going to be talking about our upcoming Be a Relationship Architect intensive. That's going to be March 21st and 22nd, and that's $300 each, or two people for $500. And we do have an early bird special if you pay in full by March 10th for $220 for an individual and $400 for a couple. And that you are going to learn so many of these relating skills and how to move from fear to trust and everything you hear on my podcasts with my friend David Garrison and I. It's a wonderful workshop. We're also doing this same workshop July 1st and 2nd in Maui from 9 to 3. And that, again, $300 or two for $500. And any of my Maui listeners, Ohana, call me and we will get you in there. We're only taking 10 in both workshops. Okay, so here we are. How do we move from fear to trust? I'll talk some of my Chinese medicine. So fear in Chinese medicine, that's on the meridian of the kidney bladder meridian, and that is representative of the season of winter, which we are in winter now. So sometimes people feel deficient kidney symptoms physically, where they have lower back pain, or like in skin with my estheticians out there where the body is chronically dehydrated, or they have inflammation in the body, which is also a deficiency of water, because kidney is the primary water element of the body. And that the positive, so the negative emotion of the bladder kidney is fear, and the positive is trust. So when we feel balanced, we are in a positive mode. We're in a point of trust. So now, when we, for instance, I've had clients that I've worked with different physical imbalances. So that was one thing I was talking about with kidney issues. And again, that has to do with high blood pressure, and it affects the heart. And kidneys, they say, is our life force. It's basically our purpose in life. Where the heart is what inspires us and motivates us, the kidneys is actually our will, our intent, our purpose. Like this is do it or die in a sense. But also on this meridian with physical imbalances, I've seen people with adrenal fatigue, where that's issues because of where they're doing too much caffeine, or their diet is totally screwed up and they don't eat enough protein or healthy fats. They have too much sugar. The blood sugar is constantly affected and spikes. When that happens, symptoms of anxiety are present, or depression, feeling emotionally unable to meet a circumstance, like you don't even feel strong enough, and it keeps you in that negative thinking. So it's kind of a loop. So here we have this adrenal fatigue, and the kidneys are stressed energetically or physically. Maybe we're not drinking enough water also, yet there literally isn't enough energy to feel positive. So you're in a constant negative thought process where you're always distrustful or fearful. You don't trust yourself, you don't trust others, and you're living in fear. So when we learn how to feed and support each essential level of our body, when we're talking about our mental being, our emotional being, our spiritual, our physical being, then, and again, here's a plug for my other workshop where I do my 30-day empowerment, detoxification, spiritual reboot. I'm doing that in South Austin starting March 26th for 4 Thursdays from 7 to 9. And I also do that one-on-one 2 hours a week for 4 weeks online, and that is $500 if we do it one-on-one. You could look that up on my website for future further information, or contact me. Okay, back to but again, everything I teach and believe in most is really about keeping us balanced, and so we could stay in an open heart and a clear mind and all of those wonderful things. So we want to create our highest purpose in life, and we want to have a life of purpose where we are making a difference on the planet and we're making it a better place. And we can only do that from the inside out, where we got to do our inner work so that it's always that inner world reflects the outer world. So building yourself through this greater awareness of what makes us whole and optimal, that becomes an important question. And where are our deficiencies, and where do we need to reinforce or spend some quality time to build that part of us so there's a deeper structure. This matters, and it's reflected in how we're responding in life. Are we fearful, or are we in trust mode because we trust and rely on ourselves? Okay, so looking at balancing the mind and heart, when we think of yourself first, when you think of yourself first in a stress situation, do you respond from your heart or your mind? Meaning, like, is your tendency when you're stressed that you become very logical and analytical, or are you in a heart space? And what is your resource, or what can you rely on more? Because both of those elements, to just come from your mind, is usually going to steer you into the same behavior, because the mind only wants to respond to what it's familiar with. And some people coming from their heart may be too naive or too trusting if they're like in a open-hearted place, or if they're in a closed-hearted place, they're going to be hardened and again distrusting in that way. So in Chinese medicine, the mind and the heart are the exact same meridian. So they actually talk about the mind being the dropped mind, which goes into your heart. So we actually want the knowledge, those neurons I talk about all the time, to be in our heart to make these wise decisions and help us to respond in the moment to what's happening with us each time. Okay, so now when we're looking at looking at our spiritual level of cultivation. Now, many people, including myself along the way, we commit to this spiritual path of awakening, of enlightenment, of universal love. And oftentimes it could be at the expense of our emotional body, or what I call the inner child. So we could respond in this high way, or this like ultimate response to different challenging circumstances. Yet I would see at times from myself and other people I've worked with that they're not acknowledging their emotional body or what their inner child is saying. So they may, in essence, be afraid or sad or angry, yet they are trying to do this spiritual path, but this is what I'm supposed to do. So they're kind of forcing it. And eventually this will collapse, that behavior of trying to be perfect and trying to do all the right things. Eventually it cannot sustain itself. And you cannot jump ahead and miss valuable lessons and steps of your development of emotional growth. We have to feel in order to move through something. So looking at cultivating the spiritual is meditation, allows us. It lets the thoughts go and the feelings be, as my wonderful meditation teacher George Kinder has said for so long. And that's where you just notice, I just had this experience and this is what I'm feeling, and I need time to reflect on it. I need space to feel it, to see how it's imprinting my life, to see how it's carving me into the conscious being that I am, how it's altering me and changing me, instead of just we continue to move forward slowly and partially and fearfully. Do it consciously. Our thoughts are cultivated. Our thoughts are cultivated as we choose, and our thoughts become our actions of intention and integrity. So our thoughts become our actions, become our intention. So to notice all of those, and again, a meditation practice, a way of downloading mental chaos so that we can actually feel and be, will help to keep us in this trust mode. So, looking at an exercise here, if we're looking at a practical approach to see which areas in our life that we need to cultivate more or give us more stability, or that we may need more guidance for. And if you put on a piece of paper, okay, spiritual, mental, emotional, and the physical body, and then to honestly write how much of a percent in a day or a week or a month you put towards cultivating that level of your being. And really be honest with that. Like, are you more about working out and diet and all that, and it's all physical and there's nothing mental or spiritual or emotional? Or is it what's neglected and what is given more percent to? And then make a commitment to yourself that you'll give even 10% more to the other areas. Don't like overshoot it, but give yourself little goals that you could start moving through. Because so many humans, we all humans, regardless if they're conscious of it or not, have a fear. Our two greatest fears: fear of death, fear of abandonment. And we also have fears of rejection. Now, fears of rejection is feeling like something's wrong with you, or someone you're disliked, or feeling you'll never change or they'll never change. Your thought process goes there. You feel you don't belong to a group, or you're isolated. You feel in this rejection that you're at fault, or you did something wrong or unacceptable. So there's always this endless spiraling mind with your doubts. You feel you're not one of the group, one of the many. And all of this like preys on your ability to be open-hearted and start cultivating new relationships or new behaviors in your life, because fear is so present with you. So another thing is, when we look at the acronym for fear, some of you may know this, it's false evidence appearing real. So this is a quote that says, "The single greatest obstacle to change is fear. Fear is a basic human emotion that usually expresses itself as an unpleasant feeling of anxiety, apprehension, caused by the presence or anticipation of danger." So this is always about our perception of reality. So, using our spiritual tools, there is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. They call it the investigation of reality. I've brought this up before because it's one of my favorite. And that means, how do we use that? How do we check in to say, is this real? I've had clients that were in such a fear mode that they absolutely could barely get out of bed to come see me or get on their computer to have their session with me. And I would say to them, this is an exercise they can do. When the fear is great, to write all possibilities that may happen. Write everything that can possibly go wrong to its extreme. Just let the mind have at it. Get it all out. Download it. And this is over one specific issue. So something you're terrified of, write every possibility of something that can go wrong. And use your logical mind. And when you're done with that, I want you to write the percent of probability that that can happen. So again, using your mind, write the percent of probability next to every possible fear that could happen of, is this true? And use that as a security blanket, as a foundation, as investigating your reality. So, now, action is a great restorer and builder of confidence. Inaction is not only the result, but the cause of fear. So many people do not move forward or do not move past the cyclic patterns they are in, that they continue to have the same arguments, the same frustrations. They can't move ahead. They can't expand. They can't feel better because they stay in that loop of the mind of fear. They're afraid to act. They're afraid to move out of their house that no longer works for them. They're afraid to leave a relationship that is toxic and they no longer grow. They're afraid to leave that job because it's familiar, or to leave the town they grew up in because they know everyone. But I left Maui after being there 30 years, and I love that place because I saw I've learned as much as I can, and I needed something new. And it was very courageous to come to a place that I've never been, recreate a community that I'm still slowly doing. It's not easy, but it's beneficial. I've grown more than I have in decades and decades. Like, my growth acceleration and my awareness and my ability to be present and conscious and take in stimulation and information all around me and listen to people and not be reactive is stronger and so cultivated since I've made some big changes. So you may be successful right off, or you'll learn how to alter and adjust to achieve more. This is the classroom of life. So, always be kind, be patient, be tolerant to yourself first, and everything else becomes instinctual towards others once you know how to be patient. When you bring that tenderness to yourself, you will be able to trust others because you trust yourself. We can control our fears with baby steps of action, or let our fears control us. I would say to move forward slowly. So overcoming fear is to have knowledge. Fear is feeling powerless. When we feel powerless, we cannot move forward. Knowledge is power. Knowledge gives us confidence to try new things. We fear because we learn to do so. Fear is a conditioned behavior. We must unlearn our behavioral response to fear. Again, I talk about building new neurons. So by experiencing new people, situations, food, dynamics, you're creating these new neurons, which gives you a physiological ability to connect on different levels, on new levels, and let that become stronger than the gray matter, than the fear, than what is known. And this is how you build your self-confidence. This increases. So when we start to direct our life in a chosen direction and lead others to become a positive influence, we begin producing amazing results. And personally and in business, our community on the planet, we need to be our highest selves more than ever before. We need to show up for our life and be the star. So let's look at confidence. There's two kinds of confidence. We have external confidence, which is what is readily seen, and we see that that's important in business. Everyone sees it on you, yet its imbalance could be you're the know-it-all. It could separate you from others. It can keep you arrogant. Or we have internal confidence that is not outwardly visible, yet it keeps us calm in stressful situations. This is the confidence that inspires others to respect, trust, and admire us. People with a developed internal confidence possess knowledge, they take control, and have ability to make others feel safe. Do you have this internal confidence? Do you want to cultivate it more? The only thing that keeps us from moving forward is fear. How do we overcome fear? There is a two-step process. The first is to confront it and acknowledge that you are afraid. Acknowledge what you are afraid of. Confront it. 2 is to act. You overcome the fear with a plan using knowledge, support, and skills. So I say that when we look to see, when we name our fear, like think of your greatest fears, period, in life. What are your greatest fears? And write down what is holding you back most. If you can actually name it and come up with steps, get someone you respect that can help, because it's not their fear, it's yours. So when you can articulate your fear and honestly and vulnerably tell your fear to someone you trust, a counselor or a friend or family member or your partner, and then ask them, how can I get through this? Can you help me with some steps? And write out a plan, a step-by-step plan that you do consciously and you do slowly, and you gradually move forward into a new way of being. So understanding the change cycle so we don't fear change. Fear of confronting challenges stops the change cycle from working. There are so many people that are afraid to speak up to their boss or to their partner or to their parent or to someone because of fear of not being liked, of being fired, of being abandoned, and it just goes on and on. So how do we confront these challenges and move forward? There are a change cycle that has 4 stages. The first stage is a change is made. It's the first thing we do. We make a change. This change creates a new challenge because we're not used to the groove. The third step or stage is we must find a solution to meet this new challenge. And as we actually do that, as we look for a solution, we are digging deep in ourselves to creating and cultivating resources that have not had to be utilized before, which is our 4th change cycle. We must implement the solution, take action to realize the goal. So, new ideas pass through 3 periods. First is it can't be done. Second is it probably can be done, but it's not worth doing. And third is I knew it was a good idea all along. So look to see where your default mode is. Where do your new ideas pass through? Do you tend to immediately negate it? It can't be done. Or do you tend to not have the drive to make the change? It probably could be done, but I'm not your person. I don't have the juice for it. Or are you, someone else takes the lead. They reap the benefits because they weren't afraid, and then you're feeling left out and in your same old track because you're like, yeah, I knew it could have happened, but I just didn't want to show up. So we have a couple quotes from some brilliant people. This first one is from Nelson Mandela. It said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. I used to tell my daughter all the time when she was afraid, and I've said this in another podcast, I would say, Mommy's afraid every day, but I do it anyways. I just move forward. Sometimes I move slower. I move more mindfully, and that fear in its heightened expression makes us very present and conscious. We can be aware, very acutely aware of our environment, of our feeling, of our heartbeat, of the way the person feels and smells in front of us. We're aware, acutely aware of everything in a state of fear. When we take the thoughts out of it, the fearful thoughts that are spinning and saying, you've been here before and this is what's going to happen, and we just move slowly forward, we see that we can do this. Another fact here, so this is, studies have shown that 90% of error in thinking is due to error in perception. If you can change your perception, you can change your emotion, and this could lead to new ideas. This is from Winston Churchill. How about that? When I do one-on-one counseling with people, and when I do that 30-day transformation empowerment course, I focus a lot on helping to lead you to your belief systems, because when we can identify the initial belief system and when and where it was created and how it has filtered or given our perception or our view of something that often isn't correct, as we get stronger inside ourselves, that perception is changing, and therefore we need to experience it differently. We need to see it with a clarity. So talking about moving from fear to trust, and I love talking about relationships, let's talk about fear, moving from fear to trust with relationships and intimacy fears. So fear is being unable to move forward to the next step. The fear is our past experiences. We do not want to feel that pain again. The mind says, don't go here. Danger, danger. Again, using the tools of investigation when it's with your partner or a close friend, ask, is the person you're relating to of integrity? Like if you've been burned or hurt or neglected or whatever in the past, look to see if you're going to try it again and your mind is saying, I don't want to go here. I've been here before. I know how it ends up. I want you to use that investigation, that mindfulness, to ask, is this person of the same character that the other people were? Because I don't open my heart to someone without seeing that they have that they deserve to see my heart, to feel my heart, right? They have to be of a certain integrity and quality and character and sensitivity to others, not a selfing person, not a tyrant, not a sociopath, someone that is considerate and listens. So I would hope you would look to see who is that special person in your life. And are you afraid of intimacy or moving forward with that person? Or is that person not of quality? Is that what's really happening here, that you're afraid to look at that and move on because maybe that person isn't of the caliber that you need, that you have cultivated your life for? But if you ask, does that person have integrity? Have you experienced them in stressful situations, and how did they respond? Have you had differences of opinions or conflicts, and how did they communicate with you and show up? Did they deflect or project or shut down? Did they avoid you where you cannot have the conversation? Did they start raging? Or did they try to manipulate your words? Or do they listen to you? Do they share their truth? Do they explain their needs and why a situation caused them hurt? This is what we all strive for, is conscious communication skills. This is why David Garrison and I teach Be a Relationship Architect. We're going to teach you conscious communication skills. If you have a partner now, or if you're single, either way, it is highly beneficial for you to learn in a triggered state. How do you navigate that territory, that emotional storm? Other questions for investigation is ask yourself, when you fear this relationship or intimacy, how honest and transparent you are. And are you really honest, or do you think you are? As I said, in counseling couples, I counsel them one at a time, and then I'll counsel with both of them in front of me. And when I go to express or encourage them to tell their partner what they just shared with me, how they would interpret it to the partner was not at all what I just heard from them one-on-one. So it's interesting how we have innately such fear. And that fear is, are they going to leave me? Will I be alone? Well, if they don't have the quality or the character, then I would say face that fear. Because again, holding space just to hold space, you can't move into it and grow, and the person who's meant to be with you can't move into that space. So be courageous. Other questions: do you share your needs and truths? Or when something is hurtful in a way, do you share, like, for instance, when this happened, not you, when you did this. We never do that. We never say another person's behavior, but we'll say when this happened and explain the situation. You say how you felt. I felt like I didn't matter, or I was invisible, or something, however you felt. Keep it brief. And then you say, I would like, and fill in the blank. Again, not a demand, not a command, not a you do this or I'm out. And then I would like, if you could do this, I would feel cared for. So those are some wonderful resources. So I've been a counselor, a serious processor all of my life, a meditator, and I'm constantly working on cultivating myself and my tools of communication. And I found the more centered, balanced I feel by caring for myself on a day-to-day basis. And again, for me, it's exercise, it's meditation, it's journaling, it's giving myself the proper nutrition, it's taking the right supplements, it's connecting with friends on a deep level, it's being out in nature, it's spending time with my dogs. It's like I have to have the window open all the time. I need to be some part of outside, something. Those are my little tools. That's what I need. I need my saunas. I need my sea salt baths with essential oil. I need to talk to my sister sometimes. I need to connect with my friend. I just need to go sit by the lake and watch the ducks and the turtles as they're on the log there in the sun, and how beautiful that is. There's so many things that I need. So you need to figure out, what is your daily self-care? And if you need help, take my 30-day. You could do it online, one-on-one. I'm not just plugging myself, but I'm telling you that if you don't have a direction, I will help you create a new lifestyle for your highest good so that you can be your optimum self, because life will come with emotional storms and it will be hard. So, here we are. Now, the goal in life is that as we deepen in our own bodies, where we're more and more present and we show up for ourselves, for others, then it's not over with. That's when the subtler belief systems start to show themselves and surface. And then we are presented with an opportunity to share clearer and more honestly than before. I recently had an experience that I needed to share something that kept coming up and causing pain. And I found myself thinking, what's the point of sharing this? Because I thought it out. Here I am using my logical mind. I don't want to convince someone to feel differently than they feel. So why do I share? And then I realized this was my shadow side coming up. And it was coming up stronger than ever. So it was deceiving me by telling me if I do this, I'm manipulating someone because I'm trying to change the way they feel. And the truth was that in no way was anywhere near why I wanted to share. I wanted to share because I was terrified to share that deeply of myself. Again, it's always that risk of, I'm going to lose this friend. It's going to be over. And I had to get to that part within myself to say, I need to dig so deep to see that no matter what happens, I have to speak my heart more than ever before. I have to be there for myself. If in this moment we honestly have no agenda or goal due to sharing with someone, and it's just a heart opening and sharing what matters to you, then this is right action. I find we need to see that no matter what the outcome is, don't have an agenda. Look at what is your greatest fear. For me, it's the person will leave. That's pretty common. But what is the greatest fear? That someone will think you're a mess, that you're not good enough. What is your greatest fear? But get to that. Like journal it or say it to yourself, but you just got to dig so deep that you see what is your greatest fear. If I move forward with this person, if I merge with this person, and be ready to accept that. What's the worst that can happen? Again, abandonment, or who knows what. And when expressing your truth becomes a stronger need than the possible abandonment, you have hit a new level, a new plateau on your self-worth journey, on your sense of self-empowerment and self-love. Being raw and real when the need to express your truth in a kind and clear way becomes stronger than the possibility of abandonment or rejection. That is when you're showing up for yourself. That is when, no matter what the outcome, you were there for yourself. This becomes significant in your near future on how your inside world reflects your outside world. And your old belief systems and realities change to this new need to be seen and heard regardless of fear and outcome. And this is how we move from fear to trust. It is ultimately always the trust of ourselves, looking at our greatest fear and knowing I need to exist, that I need to go beyond what I have known before because I want to grow, because I want my heart open, because I want the relationship of my life, because I want beautiful interactions with my family and friends, because I want to be okay to just sit and pet my dog and enjoy the sensations and the glory of just simplicity of life. Because I want a simple, beautiful life, I will continue to authentically look at my fears, and I will continue to investigate and notice the people I allow close to me in my protected little bubble of self, that I will look to see, do they have integrity? Are they kind? Are they in their heart? Are they able to cry and share with me? Are they able to hear me? Are they able to own when they have made a mistake or said something unkind? Am I able to receive that back and forgive all of those beautiful things? We never know how long this life is, people, so keep showing up. Do the best you can. Again, I do counseling, and I have never turned anyone away, so contact me. You can either reach me at 808-283-7587. My dogs are crying in the background. Or you can email me at samana@spaluna.com. Let me know who wants to sign up for our workshops, and I am doing a dermaplaning workshop in Maui the end of June. I don't have the exact date or location yet. I do know it's $250 and I'm taking 10 people. So if someone out there in Maui wants that relationship workshop for you and your partner or just yourself, or the dermaplaning, I look forward to talking to you. Aloha and blessings.